Welcome to another Scratch tutorial, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to create a simple aquarium in Scratch. The purpose of this tutorial is to show you the various ways we can move our sprites around aside the one we did in the previous tutorial. So the first thing we do is let's select our fishes. Let's select the sprites, type fish over here. We select this one. Let's bring it here. Let's select our background. The background, I'll choose this background underwater. We can rename this fish orange fish. Alright, we can change the size and make it 70. So let's start coding. The first block of code we are going to use is when flag is clicked. Let's go to motions and then let's move the sprite 10 steps. Let's let this sprite bounce on edge, so anytime it gets to the edge it bounces to a different direction, or it bounces to the opposite direction. Same way it gets here, it bounces to this direction also. Let's choose if on edge bounce, and then let's repeat the action for 50 times. So we go to control and then we choose repeat, and then we change the value to 50. Let's have a look at how the fish is going to move. Alright, so we successfully bounced our sprite on the edge of the frame, but then we can see that now the sprite is upside down. So let's come to direction, and then the second button over here, let's click it to bring it back to position. Alright, so our sprite is now in position. Let's click the flag and see. Alright, that's about that. I wouldn't want the sprite to bounce back on that same line. I would want the sprite to bounce and then move to a different location, bounce, move to another location, so that it won't make it boring. There is a block of code over here under motion called 10-15 degrees anti-clockwise. So anytime the fish or our sprite is bouncing back, then it's going to bounce back at an angle of 15 degrees. But then I would want us to change this to 25 degrees. So let me go to forever and repeat this action forever. Alright, let's play and see whether it did work. So our sprite worked as expected, but then I would want to slow the speed down. Let's employ this function called wait. I'll put it in between the steps and then the bounce, and then I'll change this value to 0.2 seconds to slow it down. I think this is okay. Or let me make it 0.1. Yeah, I think 0.1 is okay. Alright. So let me move ahead and then select my next sprite. You come down to this button and then we select. We are going to choose the same sprite, but this time around we'll change the costume for this sprite. So let's come to costumes and then let's select this costume, the blue fish. Let's call this fish blue fish. Okay, you click on codes again and then we start coding. For this sprite, let's make the size 50. Let's duplicate it, I think 4 times. Let me position them here this way. So they are going to move in groups this way. So let me code for the first one and then I'll duplicate the codes. We'll effect some changes at a point. So the first block of code we'll use is when flag is clicked. I'm going to ask the sprite to move 10 steps. Then we'll repeat the action for 50 times. Let's come over here and change this to 50. So after this, I'm going to ask this particular sprite to return to a position of -160. this way. So I'll choose this block of code and then I'll change this to -160. Then after that, I'll put everything in a forever loop. So I'll duplicate these codes for the rest of the blue fishes, and I'll do it by dragging the codes to the other sprites this way. So it's right there. Because they won't all return to the same position as this one, I would want us to change the values of this block of code in each of the sprites. Let's go back to motion and then select go to X. Let's drop this over here and then change this value to -180. And then for this one also, let's make it -180 to -180. And for this, let's make it -140. I'll change this and then make it -240. And then let's see how it goes. So here we are. Moving on to the next fish, I'll select a jellyfish. I need a jellyfish in our aquarium. I'll make the size 50. So I think we can code for this also. Events, when flag is clicked, we go to move 10 steps. Let's repeat that for 50 times. All right. Let's go to looks and select next costume. And then in between that, let's fix a weight 0.2. For this sprite also, we'll let it bounce on edge, if on edge, bounce. But this time around, we are not going to let it bounce at any angle, so it will just bounce from left to right and right to left. That's all it's going to do. So let's put it in a forever loop and see what happens. This one also turns upside down, so let's bring it back to position. So we are fine with this sprite also. Our jellyfish is set. Let's select a different sprite. This time around, we'll choose this, but then we'll need to change the costume for it. So we choose this costume. Let's go back to our codes and write some codes for it. Let's add a weight function. Let's let it weight 0. Let's repeat the action for 50 times. And then let this also bounce on edge. If on edge, bounce. So let's repeat it forever. Okay, so we select our next sprite. We are going to do the same thing that we did for this sprite. Let's repeat those same codes for this one also. So you copy and paste over here. But then this time around, we'll change the angle of bounce to 35. And then we'll change the weight to 0.4 also. Okay, so let's go to the next sprite. Let's choose the starfish. We are going to repeat these codes for the starfish also, but we'll have a slight difference because for the starfish, we would want to use the next costume. So we drop that over here. And then let's make this 0.3. Let's make this 10, a clockwise 10. I think we're okay with this one. And then we change the size to 50. Okay. Finally, let's select the shark. Let's make the size 70. And what we are going to do is we'll code this sprite for it to move outside the frame and then come back again so that it won't be moving within a small space, so it creates the illusion that it goes outside the frame and then comes back later. We start this way. Events, when flag is clicked. Let's move it for 10 steps. But then this time we change the steps to 3. let's choose the next costume. In between the next costume, let's add a wait function. Let's add a 0.2 seconds wait. So let's repeat this action for 40 times. Let's add a clockwise turn of 35 degrees. Add a forever loop. So let's see what happens. Okay, so if you've been able to follow the tutorials to this stage, you should have something similar to mine. After this, I'm sure you know how to move sprites in various directions, and then I'm sure if you've not watched the previous tutorial, you now know how to add a sprite, change the background, and then change the size also. If you enjoy the tutorial, you can subscribe to the channel, you can like the video, or even share. See you in the next tutorial. Thanks.